Welcome back to the One More K podcast. My name is Markus. We are on episode number 24, supported by Lekker Nutrition. Good morning, Ned in Singapore.
Good afternoon, Markus. We are getting used to this morning. Afternoons on other sides of the world. It is bright and early, just before 8 o'clock. Good morning.
How are you doing?
I'm good, man. My running is pretty good. This is not medical advice, people, but I've started taking collagen. And I tell you what, so I ran 50K on Saturday. I had a little 7K run because my daughter was home on Sunday. I ran 23K on Monday, or mostly on trails. I have zero leg soreness. Like even after 50K, not even 1% of any hint of any leg soreness of any description. Now, I have been running for 30 years, 40 years. Like I get it. My legs are in good shape. And I've run quite a bit more this year than before, but I've been taking collagen, which does something about bone and muscle connection. I don't really understand it.
Yeah.
But I tell you what, man, feels good.
I mean, I've been taking collagen also for a few months now. It's been fantastic. It's usually,
you too?
Yeah. It's one of the only thing I take besides magnesium, to be honest with you, and calcium. So electrolytes, of course, and collagen. And yeah, I do believe it's making me feel better. Not that I really have done much testing around this, and my skin, of course, as you can see, that my skin is beautiful. Right?
Glowing.
And
Glowing.
I was wondering about your skin too, Ned. I think you have just less wrinkles in your face. Yeah.
I only look 56, not 57.
That's why. Wonderful. Good show on the docket today. We're going to have a few more interesting analysis coming up. We're starting, of course, with our news section as usual. And we have some news from Lazarus Lake. What's been going on in America, Ned?
Well, I'm going to save the story to the end of the show. But the headline is LazCon, or Lazarus walking across the continental United States, has finished. He made it 1,700 miles, 1,800 miles of the possibly 3,100 miles. It just got too much for him. He had some injuries and back pains, and he's also 70. And small things like the camber in the road, always walking with one leg lower than the other, sets your back off. Small things like this, but also just many things. Anyway, he's finished. He did write, "I'll come back one day and do the rest." 2 poignant notes. He made it to his parents' grave. So his parents' grave, he made it there. And he finished in a town called Foyle, where a man called Andrew Payne in 1928 became the first person to run across America.
Oh.
And there's a statue of him. And maybe not the first, but he won the first transcontinental race. So that the finishing picture is Laz next to a bronze statue of Andrew Payne, who was the last person. So quite fitting. Laz writes beautifully. I'm going to read at the end. But yeah, and it's interesting. It was covered in Run 24. It was covered in I Run Far. It's not just me who has a man crush on Laz. It seems to be, it's relatively widespread. But yeah, a bit of an epic journey. He averaged about 20 miles a day. And he needed to do 22. And I know that seems a small amount, but he's been going for 3 months. So you think that's 90 times 2, that's 180 miles. When you're only doing 20 miles a day, that's already 9 days behind. And he was slowing. He was getting down to 18 miles a day, 17 miles a day. He did not give up easy. I'll tell you, after a month, his posts each night looked like he might, but he always wrote, "All I have to do is wake up and get going." And so he struggled hard. But yes, LazCon has finished.
Did he had anyone join him for the last few days? Was he doing it alone?
He never did it alone at any point because he can't really. He's got to carry some stuff and go ahead and book motels and also show him the way. You get lost a little bit. So, and on the last day, quite a few people came out, and the Payne family. So the family of the original winner of the transcontinental run came out bizarrely in a hearse.
In a hearse?
Yes.
For the non-English speakers, what is a hearse?
It is the car that takes your coffin to the funeral, the big, long, black car.
That is some dark humor right there.
I'm just telling you what happened.
Wow. Okay. So how do you feel about this? Are you sad that he didn't make it? Like, what's your impression of this?
I think because I followed every day, I think I knew like a month ago that every day he was but he was struggling on, and there would be an end to this. So look, I'm going to read out his poem. He said, he's not dead yet. He wrote, I'm not dead yet. Didn't achieve this goal, but I have goals and I'm not dead. I'll be back type of scenario. So definitely sad he didn't make it because he did believe this was his last chance at doing it all in one go. But I think he's accepted that he will wait 6 months or a year, come back to that town of Foyle where Andrew Payne was, and then do the rest, which for a 70-year-old dude, it's all pretty good. So definitely, I think there's definite sadness for him he didn't make it. But also, hey, how many other 70-year-olds are out walking 20 miles a day for 3 months? Not many.
Not many, for sure. Let's revisit then Lars at the end when you're going to read out his summary of that last day, I believe. Cool. Moving on to, I think it's going to be quite America-focused this time around, unfortunately, or fortunately, depends how I see it. We had the Broken Arrow Sky Race 23K happening here in California. Another sky race worth noticing more, I think, because the Kenyans won the race. Joyce, Jeru, and Patrick Kipnegno. I probably pronounced it wrongly. I apologize for that. 23K in near Lake Tahoe with 1,400 meter elevation of vertical gain. Tough race. 2 Kenyans won. What do you think, Ned?
We talked about it before. The money's coming for our sport. So people will transition if you're not running, 26, 27 minute 10Ks and you've got speed. You can come across here and pick up some cash. So I think this is really happening. I think it's a great thing. I think it's a fantastic thing. I think, a lot of it has been incredibly, American focus. It's great to see athletes coming across and winning it. I think this is only the start, as we talked about, whether it's from Africa, whether it's the college kids jumping across. This is not changing. But think about that, Marcus. 1,400 meters in 23K. That's some serious effort.
Yeah, and also I think it was very technical. It was on some ski slopes and stuff, so it went straight up. Not bad. It happened also on this similar area than the Western States are about to happen this week. So this is now kind of looking more into the future, and I thought it was worth covering who are the man and female looking to get going this week Friday in the Olympic Village in California. What is going on in America here? I think we should mention all the amazing ladies who are competing on the 100 miles. And I'm sure you recognize a few of them. Amongst them, of course, is Katie Scheid. Ned, you've mentioned her before many times.
I have, but I think we're missing the main preview of Western States, Marcus. The main news is you're going to be there.
Well, that's too kind. Yeah, thank you. The German's going to be in town too. I'm gonna make it. I'm gonna go tomorrow. Yes, tomorrow, which is mid this week. We're recording on Monday, so I'm excited to be there and mingle with the stars and head out to meet people. Which is, I think, a different lesson for a different podcast: how to launch a market, how to mingle, how to hustle. Right? But it's part of this whole journey.
Exactly. Well, look, we'll get to the overview, but you're right. I think it has become, I've never been there, but I'm sure it's a massive festival of it all. Okay, so Katie Scheid, I just don't see how Katie Scheid doesn't win. If we remember a month ago, we talked about her coming 7th overall, beating Tim Tollefson in a stacked field. She's been training up. I saw on Insta the other day. She's been training in Flagstaff for 2 months with Abby Hall. Absolutely. You just can't look past Katie Scheid winning. Definitely exciting. Hong Kong. I mean, she's not a Hong Kong national, but she lives there. Esther, how do you pronounce her? You're more European than me.
Esther Zilak.
She's, and I don't want to be unkind to Esther, but she's not 21. She is slightly older, but then again, trail running is amazing to see. And then another story, Emily Horgood. I listened to her on Free Trail. Cool story, from Zimbabwe, grew up on a massive farm, went to college in like this smaller college in America. Doing great. What do you think, Marcus? I mean, I think there's no way Katie Scheid doesn't win this, right?
No, I think that she's preparing for it. She's been living there for 2 months, as you say. I have no doubt, unless something happens, it's going to be quite hot. It's going to be, the heat furnace is on, and that might impact a few runners. But I believe if you have been in this area for some time now, you're familiar with it, and you will get on with it. I just think I'm just reading out this I Run Far article here, and there's so many races happening, and I'm just getting so confused with all these acronyms. So someone won this, UTMB, CCC, Translantau, Canyon. I mean, the amount of races people are doing is just insane. So I think this is my impression of how many people are going to be there and how good they are as well. I think on the Asian front, we want to give a little shout out to Fujiao Zhang, who we also featured before. Fujiao Zhang was a four-time finisher of UTMB from China. And so she's going to be there again. I'm looking forward to catching up with her. She also won Translantau, by the way, in 2023, 140K distance.
If you look, she's come fourth in UTMB in that race with Sun Maya she did the other day. This lady's going to put it on the line. Her and Sun Maya were sprinting. As it said, we're going to assume coming from Asia, she can handle the heat. But, she could surprise easily. No, she can get on podium for sure.
And then Lin Chen from China is as well coming. Lin Chen, I quite liked how Ivan Fa said, as far as we can tell, which means it's as usual. It was tough to find what's going on in Asia, but we're changing this year right now. So Lin Chen is also coming. She came second in Tranjeju in South Korea, and she actually won Dointanon 100 miles in Thailand in 2023. So she's actually a pretty serious runner. We have not talked about her before, but I do think we should keep an eye on her because winning Dointanon, which is a very tough race, 100 miles, is serious business.
Absolutely. And just one thing just stop there. Heather Jackson. For any of you who are not in Ironman, she's the rebel in Ironman, massively tattooed. Her boyfriend's called Watty Inc. He runs like tattoo stuff. She's like the wild child of Ironman. Never won Kona, but right up there. This lady's going to go at it, right? She's transitioned across. I don't think she's winning, but this lady puts her heart on the line. Highly entertaining. If you see this massively tattooed lady wandering around the Olympic Village, Marcus, that's her.
Nice.
Oh, and look, Sally McRae, yellow runner. Sally McRae, after doing 200 miles last year, has put it all in. Clearly, I don't think Sally's coming, podium or anything, but never know. Top 10, top 20, but cool to see her there. She'll bring a lot of eyeballs as well.
Very nice. On the men's side, switching to the man, we don't lack any strong runners here, to be honest with you. Jim Wormsley is coming. What's your bet? You think he would win?
The only chance is that it's literally like 110 degrees. We know Jim can melt in the heat, but I think he's figured that out. He used to melt in the heat. I think he's figured it out. That's it. But did I read there that John Albon is coming? No.
Oh, yeah. So let's start with the beginning. So we don't have this yet Tom Evans and Mathieu Blanchard, who are not coming. And it is, however, Tyler Green. Right? We featured Tyler before. He did Hong Kong 100, I believe.
He did
pretty well there. Not as good as we thought it would be, but pretty good against the Chinese.
Yep.
We have a Chinese coming, Jie Sheng Shen, who we featured before. He actually was doing UTMB the last few years and came second at CCC. So he was definitely exciting. And I'm curious to see how it's going on with him. Daniel Jones, are you familiar with him from New Zealand?
Bit. Kiwi guy, definitely top 10, but I think that would be about best.
Yeah. And yeah, you are right. John Albon is coming.
Okay, John can beat Jim for sure. For sure. John Albon is, I was about to say John Albon is a crusher. Then I looked at your screen. John Albon has been crushing. This dude, he's very mild-mannered. Like you see him interviewed, he's a calm dude. But, he trains with Kilian and Peter Engdahl. He turns up in Saudi Arabia and picks up 80K. I mean, look, of course, smart money's on Jim, but oh my God, Peter Engdahl as well. All right, seriously, dude. Like, Jim can win this for sure. But these boys, Peter Engdahl and John Albon, are just not going to roll over and have their tummies tickled on this one. They're gonna give him some trouble.
Yep. Dakota Jones, Hayden Hawks also joining. So it is a really nice lineup. I'm looking so forward to seeing this. It's almost hard to pick who's second, who's third, who's fourth. There's so many good competitors now. They're all going to crush it.
I'm going out on a limb. I'm saying John Albon's going to win.
Holy moly. Okay. That's going to be interesting. Maybe old man Jim's going to, pass on the baton.
Actually, you know what? I don't know. Can you do this, Marcus? Can you put I'd like to see the weather. Which area would you say the weather? Olympic Village, or where would you put if you're looking for the weather?
Yeah, Olympic Village, California. Weather. Yeah, that's the one you're looking for.
Yes, it is, sir.
And we're looking here right now, live on the screen. We have not warm right now, so it goes up to, however, 77 degrees, which is okay.
No, yeah. Jim's winning. Okay, I take that back. Jim's winning. Mm-hmm. If it had been 100 degrees, then I think if it had been 100 degrees, oh my God, it's cold. It's literally cold.
Yeah, so for anyone that doesn't understand Fahrenheit out there, we have during the day 24 degrees Celsius and 6 degrees Celsius at night. So that is quite cold.
Yeah, Jim's winning.
Yeah. Man, I'm gonna get some tan there. That's nice. Great.
Look at
Good
that.
Stuff. Yeah. I don't need more collagen. I just need the sun. Californian sun.
Okay, I have a task for you when you get there. You know that Dylan Bowman does trailgating now instead of tailgating. You've got to find some way to get on his show because he has a stand in the middle of town and he interviews people. You have to burst on and with your Lecker t-shirt and grab some eyeballs.
Yes. Debo, I'm coming.
Absolutely.
Be ready. Alrighty. Good. That's going to be an exciting weekend for sure. Or actually week now. Anything else on your news docket, Ned, that you came across?
No, the one thing is just bringing it back to Asia and we highlight different countries. We've done Malaysia, we've done India and the Philippines. Just like you said in America, the number of races is increasing. The number of races in Malaysia is outrageous. Like every weekend, more and more and more. I mean, again, I know the recurring theme is I'm older than dinosaurs. 20 years ago, you couldn't find one race a month. Now there's 10 a weekend. And from Singapore, so just thinking Singapore, the crew here, the Singapore Ultra Racing Association, put together by Alex Ang and friends, have done, they put out a lot of content. And you just see, and the teams are going, one thing we must cover. Like in Asia, the teams are going around racing and you're finding this more of a community. There was the Asia Trail Racing
in Philippines
Cup competition.
Yes, I was about to say we actually missed that, and we should not have. We definitely should cover this. So we had the Southeast Asian Trail Challenge in the Philippines.
Correct, and I think we're starting to see maybe more than Europe and America. I mean, America's not many countries, but real countries, communities racing, because we know that the Philippine government is putting some money behind. But whether it's the Singapore Ultra Association, teams, really starting to feel that there is this growing sport league community of racers racing around with Asia Trail Masters, with these races. I've just been blown away by how many there are, and the different people traveling to so many races here. There you go.
Which is need to highlight now. We had the first Southeast Asian Trail Running Cup in Bontoc, which is where we talked to JP and the other show about it. And the distance was 77 kilometers. And I did read from other runners, it was actually a very tough trail. The first winner was Super J from Thailand, and he won it in 11 hours and 4 minutes ahead of the Filipinos, Larry and Arnie, who also are good friends of the show. So interesting that Thai runner was winning with the Filipinos coming second and third.
I would say it's, he's a super J. He's one of the top people coming out of Thailand, being part of the Ryan Blair's racing team. He did fantastic. He was, I think there you go. Interesting. Stingray won the short.
Correct. So there was also a short distance, 40 kilometers. Sorry, not 40, short distance. And Stingray won that ahead of Romnik, Tunglanking, and Godwin Mira, also Filipinos. It seems like Filipinos had a bit of a advantage being on their home turf. On the females, Trisha Reyes actually won for Philippines, the female side, with also the Filipino Krista Bell coming second. So seems like Philippines were really strong. And maybe it does pay off that the Philippines have a national team and get the support from the government.
I think it's great before. I think it's great. Stingray is super popular there. That sport is really growing. That's what it takes. Countries, I've always wondered, why is New Zealand so good at rugby? And I'm sure there was some historical context that, 100 years ago, one team did really well and everybody started to follow it. And over the generations, they came good. So in the Philippines, if we can get, Stingray on big podiums, if people can see it's a viable path, then people will do it. And I think it's great to see. So, but yeah, my general statement is trail racing in Asia is incredibly healthy and just growing so much. It's amazing to see.
Adding on to our last week's episode with Chris, who joined us from ATM, we talked a bit more about the company called Kailas. And we have been featuring it here and there as a sponsor. So I thought, interesting. Let me dig a bit more into Kailas and see what we can find about this company, this brand out of China. And as usual, it's very hard to find anything from China. So I'm going to spend a few minutes on digging into Kailas as a brand, as a company. We do hope to get them onto the show soon, but for now, we just need to make use of information available on the World Wide Web, which we know is different to the World Wide Web in China. It is the English World Wide Web. But it was started 2003, Ned. Can you imagine this? So already a 21-year-old company.
We as business people, we know Markus. The first 5 to 10 years is about just getting going. And then everyone's like, oh, wow, overnight, you're amazing. Yeah, that's. I think that's the history of many successful companies is nobody hears of them for 10 years when the entrepreneur in the hardest part of the ultra and then slowly goes forward. But go for it. I'm excited to hear.
It was founded by a gentleman called Baguio Zhong. Anyone on watching, you can see it on screen. He was actually a crazy outdoor athlete, a very good skier, until he had a bad accident and got paralyzed. So you can also see a picture here, him doing sitting skiing. So after being paralyzed, he can't move his legs anymore. He actually was a very strong athlete, a Paralympic athlete also for the Chinese team to do Paralympic skiing. And so is actually a really big inventor and also investor and creator of Paralympic skis.
So I'm going to, this is amazing. I did not know this. So good on this Baguio guy. I'm sure it was incredibly sad when he got paralyzed. Markus, you have to watch Full Circle on Netflix. The story of the skier who paralyzed himself, American kid. I don't know if you're a skier, Markus, but this kid on a sit ski launches himself into something called Corbett's Couloir, the biggest, steepest kind of launch into a couloir ever. He backflips into it on a sit ski. It is the most, I used to ski, it is the most jaw-dropping thing I have ever seen.
Wow, okay. Yeah, Mr. Zhong, the founder of Kailas, also see videos of him. He is also super into it, and I'm sure he found his passion there. But I thought interesting that he had a journey. So the timeline of Kailas is actually interesting as well, because they started out as a climbing company. And like so many other climbing companies, they actually were very strong with the gears. So in 2008, they came up with one of the top climbing brands for clips and also ice axes, investing heavily into that and really making a big move into the Chinese climbing scene. So they sponsor the Chinese climbing Olympic teams and so on. And only 2016, they came up with a brand called Fuga, which is their trail running brand. So they probably saw in the mid 2010s, hey, let's go into trail running. And they established Fuga, which is the trail running kind of brand of the Kailas universe. Moving on, I think to now, we see also how Fuga has really developed its own trail running team. So Sange Sherpa, Valentin Orange, all friends of the show, are now part of the Fuga trail running team.
And Anson Meyer as well.
I also found interesting how many races they already sponsor. And there's a list here of races. And the big ones are, of course, Tor X, right? You have then GTC. You have many races in China, which I never heard of, to be honest with you. You have Hong Kong 100. You have certain UTMS races. You have Laoshan races. So they're really active especially in China, with over 400 races throughout the world. And I found that quite interesting, how they're really now coming on the scene. And I'm sure it's going to get more and more, for sure. Yeah. So GTC, anyone out there, is the Grand Trail, Courmayeur, Mont Blanc. So they already are moving more to France.
Isn't it amazing? This is so cool because this company looks, and Markus, one thing I will say is they've made a very good job of making this a very Western looking brand. This website, the Western looking brand. But I guarantee you walk around Olympic Village and ask anybody about Kailas, almost nobody's going to know.
Yeah. Which is interesting that you say that, because I, of course, went to Reddit and checked if anyone on Reddit has been talking about Kailas, and you can almost find zero information about this company. You find some users talking about this gear, that gear, jacket, this kind of sleeping bag, and no one has anything bad to say. It's made in China, but it's pretty decent. And the comment also is everything else is made in China, so it doesn't really matter. But it's interesting how, yeah, you're right. It's still very unknown and outside China. I mean, in China, they have 650 retail stores at least. So they're probably in every major city.
Wow.
Tier 1, Tier 2, probably Tier 3 city. And they're going to have retail stores, 650 of them. But then, then we sit here and who knows Kailas? Right? One of those phenomena where like this Chinese brand is only yet getting popular overseas, especially with the community. Yeah, that was a little Kailas dig. I thought because we talked about this last week, we got to get into it a bit more.
Markus, we should dig more into this. Are you ready for this? So this feels a bit like Patagonia, started by a climber, made climbing equipment. That's how Patagonia started. Everybody knows Patagonia, correct? Patagonia has 70 stores worldwide. This one has 650. Isn't that crazy? Like, this is why, like, I love talking with you about business. You are a superb researcher on business. You get to, like, the hearts of the matters. This is a running, climbing brand that has 650 stores, and no one knows about it. 400 races. Not no one, but no one in the West, in China. But I'm going to say even a lot of Asia. Do people in Vietnam know Kailas? Not really, right?
It's interesting. Like, my team told me this morning, actually, Markus, there's a new shoe company launching in Ho Chi Minh City. I'm like, okay, what is it? Oh, it's Anta shoes. They're like, seem like a very new brand. I'm like, Anta shoes is freaking huge. We discussed it episode, I think 3 or 4 actually earlier on the show, like how Anta is the 3rd largest producer of shoes in the world. And now they're like coming. So even the Vietnamese have not heard of Anta yet, and now they're coming.
And not only have people not heard of Anta, I think Anta makes, whether it's Nike or Asics or Brooks or whatever, they're a producer for lots of shoes anyway. So all of us have probably worn Anta shoes at some part in our lives.
Let's stop here and we will revisit the link. Yeah. So while talking about Kailas, I was like, which other brand recently got onto the map in global trail running? And it turned out that Merrell was making some waves. Merrell is sponsoring the Sky Races. So whenever someone has money to sponsor something, I'm like, let's look into the financials. What's going on here? So did you know that Merrell also is part of another conglomerate that is worth talking about?
I did not.
See, I thought so. And Merrell is part of a very cool company called Wolverine Worldwide.
What a great name. Somebody was obsessed with the Wolverine.
Right. And another important road running brand is part of this kind of conglomerate. It is Saucony. So Saucony and Merrell are part of the same holding company. And that got me thinking, okay, let's look into Merrell and Saucony. And as soon as there's a public company, Wolverine is a public traded company, what can you do? We can read annual reports. You can read the beautiful annual report filings and SEC filings. And Wolverine is listed on the New York Stock Exchange. It has actually done pretty well in the stock market the last year, or year to date is 46% up. Everyone watching, no financial advice here. So what do we have at the moment? We have 3 public listed companies that are in the shoe business, in the footwear business. We already talked about 2 of them. We have Amer Sports, which has Salomon Asterix. Amer Sports is half owned by Anta, which we just talked about. We have Deckers, which owns basically Hoka. And we have Wolverine, which owns Merrell and Saucony. So we can actually look into the financials of those 3 a bit more and understand the market a bit more. And also, to be honest with you, if I would be an athlete, get sponsored, I would be curious to understand what's going on behind the scenes. Yeah?
These I cannot wait. People, if you're watching this is amazing what Markus has done. Mark, I'll let you dig into these numbers, but this is some interesting stuff.
I also did this because I wanted to understand how big is Kailas, and of course, Kailas is private. It is founder-led. I don't know who owns how much, so we can't find information about Kailas, how much revenue, but we can later make a guess maybe just to see where things are. Anyway, so Amer Sports, Deckers, and Wolverine, just to be very clear, Amer Sports owns Salomon Asterix and is half owned by Anta. Anta makes shoes. Maybe you also remember that Anta is producing for our dear friends at Lululemon. So Amer Sports is like this whole huge footwear conglomerate. They make $4.3 billion in revenue 2023. $4.3 billion revenue 2023. Deckers, which owns Hoka, makes $3.6 billion. And Wolverine, which owns Merrell and Saucony, makes only $2.3 billion. So Wolverine is pretty much rough half the size of Amer, Deckers being in the middle. Gross profit, $2.1 billion for Amer, $1.8 billion for Deckers, and $872 million for Wolverine. But here it comes. Amer Sports has a loss of $208 million. Deckers with Hoka has a net income of $600 million. And Wolverine has a loss of minus $15 million. Okay, it's fine. But I was very surprised to see how well Deckers is doing. With Hoka, they must have figured out something extremely special. Hoka and Uggs, the boot brand that especially many females wear, I believe, they must have found some really cool golden jewels in their portfolio. And they are having income of $604 million, where Amer Sports with Salomon Asterix, huge, has a loss of $208 million. And this is a significant loss.
Unbelievable. Just everybody who's listening, I'm sure we've got a pretty intelligent audience, but not everybody's finance. Net income basically means profit. $600 million of money they keep in their pockets as compared to Amer that lost $200 million, Wolverine 15. This number from the revenue is quite unbelievable. And as you say, they have really figured this out. I'm guessing. One of the things that comes to my mind are people are wearing Hokas as fashion shoes. I don't know, Markus, I'm really struggling. Have they figured out how to produce cheaper? What is it that they can make on 3.6 billion revenue, 600 when the other guys are losing?
I will study this more because this can't be it, because it really seems like Deckers and Hoka have done something special there. I also just wanted to add On Running, another public company, which we have not really been added here. On in itself makes $2 billion in revenue. That's pretty impressive. Right? And net income of only is maybe, shouldn't say only, but of 90 million. So On and Hoka, and Hoka is part of this Deckers conglomerate, but still, Hoka and On are both printing money, where Merrell, Saucony, and Salomon Asterix are losing money. Something about those two brands, On and Hoka, they have found a very good formula. My 2 cents, what I read through the financial statements, this is clearly, again, I'm not a financial analyst here, but from what I can read through the hundreds of pages of documents, it all comes down to inventory. So On and Deckers have managed supply chains much better, have less inventory that is dragging down the financials, and have less write-offs. Wolverine, Merrell and Saucony had a big turnaround last year. They fired the CEO early last year and got a new CEO in. And you can see that the gross profit, $872 million, I saw on the financial statement, is all eaten up by administrative expenses. So they must have written down a lot of shit and probably had to get rid of some people there that didn't add up. I mean, how can you waste 872 million in a year, right? Down to zero. It's all gone in expenses. But I think the game of the day is how you manage inventory, how you manage supply chain. And it seems that Hoka and On have done a much better job.
But this is not just a much better job. This is an unbelievable job. If we just say, and we know, Markus, you know business very well, this is not true. But essentially, they're in the same business, shoes. There is production, distribution, marketing type costs. It's not like one of them made 100 million, one made 90, one made 80. One lost 200 and one made 600. I mean, this is a enormous, Markus, that's a semiconductor company. That is an enormous difference. Like just an enormous difference. It would be fascinating to find out. What have they got right?
Yeah, I think we need to dig into it more. But it is something worth noticing how within one industry, you're right, there's such a massive difference. And it's really, I don't know how to say this. It's really a big difference. The fascinating part, however, is that the stock price of AIMA, no surprise, is only 5% up year to date. Deckers, 45%, but Wolverine, 61%. So this 61% Wolverine is pretty impressive growth for this year. The reason behind that I can see is that probably they had a very low stock price given the turnaround and the very bad financials. Yeah. And so probably people got more confident with the new management and have been investing more into the stock there.
And I think it's also interesting again, this is not financial advice. So at the beginning, I did not give health advice about collagen, and now we are not giving financial advice. But I would be interested to know that how many people who wear Hokas know that they could own some shares in it, because I don't think it's as commonly known that it's a listed company, because I think people wouldn't know that Deckers, as you say, if you said to people, here's the three major running trail shoes in the world, AIMA, Wolverine, and Deckers, they wouldn't know them.
Adding on to it quickly, just because I forgot it, On stock price year to date is 45% up as well, pretty much in line with Hoka. So it seems like that Hoka and On, stock price wise, revenue wise, profit wise, they have figured it out and are really now the winning. We can see this in the market. If you again, we talk a lot. If you go to an airport, you can see Hoka and On shoe everywhere. And it sees also in the financials how really the financials match the real world experience here.
Here's a business question. You don't see Salomons everywhere. You don't see Merrells. What is it about Hoka and On, do you think, that makes normal people, lifestyle people wear them?
Storytelling. I do think that Hoka and On do a much better job in storytelling with athletes, On about Swiss engineering, Hoka about this kind of ultra running. And I think they speak to the people right now. They have a story that works. Plus the colors, plus the designs. There's of course more to it. So I think the marketing package of story and performance, lifestyle speak to people. Yeah.
And I think also that, Hokas stand out with those massive heels. They just stand out. People are like, if I'm going to pay $200 or Sing dollars, 150 US for a pair of shoes, I get more. I wonder if it's, Markus, people who don't run, it's like, wow, I get more for my money. Like if I'm paying 150 for a pair of Salomons, which look like normal shoes, or I pay 150 for Hokas, and Hokas look like unbelievable space-age shoes. But are we correct to understand that the original founders of Hoka don't own it? Remember, we talked about that. They're not just, but they're salaried guys. I'm sure they got a lot of stock options pushed down their throats. I'm sure they're not poor, but they're not making the billions, correct?
I doubt it. I think they sold Hoka after 5 years of founding. And I think we discussed before that it must have been a growth question. How much more can you grow in this business of high cash intensity? Buying shoes on inventory is super expensive. And as a founder-led company, you can't sustain that cash flow. So you got to sell to someone like in this case, Deckers. Fascinating. But stock options, funny keyword. I was thinking, I wonder if these athletes of a Hoka On or something, do they get stock options when they sign an athlete agreement?
So Speedgoat Carl, which is the best selling Hoka shoe, he never says how much he got paid. But when asked, and I've heard him asked by many people, he says, "I'm doing fine." And he's used the word "I'm participating." He said, I'm part of this and I'm doing fine every time some shoes are sold. So whether he learned from Mrs. Jordan when she negotiated a share deal in Air Jordans for her son, Michael, so whether he gets profit share or whether he gets some stock options, again, I don't know this for sure, but just listening to Carl, now he was the first. As you know, Marcus, when startups are young, they give out way more because they don't know what it would be. Today you're not turning up at Hoka or Nike and demanding stock options because that's just not the way it is. The risk return reward is given to those when it's non-obvious. When it's obvious, you don't get it, right? So I'm going to guess there's almost no chance that any athlete gets any stock options in any of these shoe companies. On the other hand, do I think that, and again, I'm just guessing, Debo, if you're listening, which I hope you are, and you're going to see Marcus next week when he leaps on stage, do I think Speedland would maybe cut Debo into their shoes? I would. I think he's helped them a lot. I would. It wouldn't surprise me if Debo has a little slither of Speedland. And Marcus, you know this. This is the deal, right? Early days wins the prize in startup land. 99% of the time the company goes bust, but if it works, that's
great. Yeah, just to I think clarify, it's not stock options that Jordan got. I think he got a profit share. So. It's part of the product line, and so I maybe got a stock options later, but it's really linked to the product line, and to that he still makes $1 billion from that, so that's fine. But I think there's a different financial incentives given, right? It's a product share, revenue share, commission, stock options. So I found that interesting as a brand. How can you tie your stars to you? And Courtney DeWalter is having tailwinds. Watermelon flavor, all her name is all over it. I wonder what the deal is there. I think it's pretty cool.
We should ask. There's only one way to know. Let's get Debo or somebody on a show and just say, "Can you tell us?" I'm sure they'll probably come.
Yeah. The final point of this is, and I listened to this quote the other day. Mark Andreessen, a very famous investor, he is Andreessen Horowitz, one of the biggest capital funds in Silicon Valley. He said, "Join an industry where most companies are still founder-owned and founder-led. If you are looking to go a job or looking to do something cool or new, start your own company, join an industry where the companies are still founder-led and founder-owned." And we just let it sink in for a second. And I thought, on the back of what we just discussed with the footwear companies, most of them are public. Most of them are, actually, I think all of them are public. So you can see Hoka and On, they were all products of the 2000s when they started. So at the moment, it's not a good idea to start a footwear company because it seems like most of the companies are already public companies. And so I started a database, by the way, to just see which trail ultra businesses are still founder-owned and founder-led. And I can only give you a little sneak preview. In nutrition, guess what? Is still a lot of founder-led and founder-owned. And in gear as well. So, we had Mute Sports on the show. We have T8, we have Uglo. There are quite a few others out there as well. And gear also is a big field. You have other devices and equipments and electronics. So Koros, is Sunto. There's still other brands in this world who are still founder-led and founder-owned. That's an exciting industry. So we will publish more data on this soon. I'm curious to get more into this, to see because that tells you what are the trends, like where are innovations happening in shoes. I don't know. I think right now we don't see too much innovation. It's just printing money and managing cash flows and financial positions. Because maybe Hoka and On are innovative, but I don't think so. As soon as you grow into that size, you stop to be innovative. And so that's where you need to have founders starting new companies to be pushing the barriers ahead again. And so I want to understand, where are the barriers being pushed?
For another show, Marcus, I think it would be great. And so that's a really good point. You put me onto a podcast called the All In Podcast, which I now is part of my weekly running long Saturday runs. Interesting guys doing a lot. They're not going to get into politics, but they I don't know if you listened to their Trump interview. It was pretty interesting. But on the last show, Elon's pay package at 56 billion got approved, and Chamath. So sorry guys, we're going a bit technical here, but basically the story was founder-led businesses, even when public companies, outperform non-founder-led businesses. And the shareholders were not willing to not give Elon 56 billion in case he left Tesla. 56 billion, and we can go down the road. So for another show, Markus, let's talk about founder-led businesses, what it means in the trail sports world. Because I think in the trail sports world, there's a lot of feeling to it. You are Lecker, right? Debo is free trail. That each person signifies something about it. But let's say Lecker one day is like the world's biggest nutrition company. Will you be sitting on a beach, with $1 billion, or will you still be doing it? So look, we're coming on time, and I've got Laz's long thing to read, but considering we're a running and business show, super interesting topic.
Great. This is all, again, available on YouTube. If anyone wants to see the numbers, they were on the screen share, and we will also have them in our newsletter. By the way, the newsletter is going to expand a bit. We're going to have more information coming up with the newsletter. So all of these digestions, all of these analysis are going to be published on the newsletter. So we recommend you to sign up on onemorek.com in case you missed this from before. Right, Ned?
Let's do it. Yes.
Let's go to Laz.
So everybody, normally I read a drop, I write something and I read it, and I thank you for listening to it. I've always enjoyed writing. I enjoy writing about writing, but the real OG, not OG, because, Shakespeare's the OG, or I don't know who is the OG about writing good words. But Lazarus writes in a style that I have definitely mimicked to a degree. This one's going to take about 7 or 8 minutes to read. It's quite long, but I think it's worth reading. So this week's drop is not written by me. It's written by Laz. As mentioned, Laz has finished his walk across America. Every day he wrote like a poem, a story. This one's more of just a little report. But I think this has been a very American-focused show because Markus is there and going to Western States. This is Laz's musings on America, what it means to be in America, what it means to be old, what it means to live and not die. I thought it was beautiful. It is about 7 or 8 minutes, people, so please stay with it. It's really worth it. This was Lazarus Lake 2 days ago. Here we go. I can't believe it's over. I can't believe it ended the way it did. I had doubts about this final day from the start. When the alarm went off for the 83rd day in a row at dark o'clock, I just wanted to turn it off and go back to sleep. The night had been like so many others. Going to sleep with pain in my legs and feet. Walking the next day's route in my sleep. Then waking to the realization I had to do it again when morning arrived. Then falling back asleep only to repeat the process. Once awake, there was no excitement that I only had a few hours to finish. Only a profound weariness. Taping my feet wasn't exciting because it was the last time. It was a source of stress trying to get it right. I wanted to get it so my toes might not hurt for just a few more hours. My left wheel assembly had finally cracked last night when I got out of the crew vehicle after supper. One of the greatest lessons of the run. Nothing heals during the journey anymore. All you can hope for is not to make it worse. 70 is not 30. Today, instead of trying to avoid more damage to the ankle, the hope was that it would numb up after I got going. Either way, I knew it was only a few more miles. I asked myself if it was really important to reach that Andy Payne statue, or could I just call it where I was? I knew I couldn't do that. I had to complete this part of my journey. But I was sure glad for the extra miles I did after Chelsea yesterday. It left fewer for today. And today, I felt terrible. My body didn't feel like it could do a single mile. But you know what happens. When we got to the starting point, I just put my walking stick in my hand, flipped the walk switch, and after 5.25 million steps getting here from Delaware, the legs are on autopilot. The device says 5,278,661 steps. They just started walking because they know nothing else. Sunrise was so beautiful, I looked back twice. The wheel assembly discomfort grew less sharp as I moved on, but I was glad this was the last test. When I stop, it will not get less grouchy. Until it gets some rest, it will only get worse. Unlike most days, when I never look at my map or my watch, I found myself frequently checking both. This does not make time pass faster, but then some people join me to distract my mind from its self-pity. This only worked for a little while because apparently I missed the mark with my taping this morning, and one of my toes was becoming more and more vociferous about its unhappiness. There are two things I never travel without. I keep my rain gear in my pack at all times. I keep my foot care kit at ready access in the crew car. Every day I use neither is a good day. Any day I needed one of them and didn't have it would be a disaster. I have had to stop a total of 3 times to work on my feet during the past 83 days, and I sure did not want to make it 4 when the finish was drawing closer with every step. But the toe had gone from complaining to screaming. A mile and a half from the finish, I broke down and called for help. After 1,715 miles, I could not make it to 1,716 without doing some foot repair. The result was incredible relief. I should have taken care of it within a mile of starting. But runners are like boiling frogs. They don't want to stop for minor discomfort and will tolerate ridiculous pain as long as it increases slowly from the minor discomfort. So I took my numb ankle and partly mollified toe into Foyle, the last town. The accompanying runners were now a small entourage. At the end of a long journey, it's nice to have some time to reflect. But I had my private time yesterday on my way to my parents' grave. Today was a different kind of finish. I was in the landmarks in Foyle and then walked a final mile on the old Route 66 pavement. Approaching the Andy Payne Park, I saw a small group waiting. My crew, Jason Vore, became my brave left hand. Some people I know, some people I knew, some people I didn't know. I went around the end of the parking lot instead of to the waiting people and bumped fists with Andy. My long journey was over. Then I looked for a place to sit down. After a minute or two of decompression, I noticed one lady was wearing a t-shirt with Andy Payne on it. So I commented about it. I don't remember what I said, but her answer was, he was my uncle. What an incredible ending to the journey. I have heard about the Paynes all my life. It was almost as if they were part of my family. But I suddenly realized I'd never met a single one of them. Of course, the Paynes my dad knew were also long gone, but it turned out that 3 of the Payne descendants had shown up for my finish. People who knew the people and places of my childhood. I could not have asked for a more perfect ending. And like so many parts of this perfect journey, of every perfect journey, it was pure serendipity. Kyle Knapp had come to see me earlier on the trek, and I think he was planning on being there for the finish. And he was talking about this. And a coworker said, I'm from Foyle, and my neighbors are named Payne. How incredible is this? So, now I'm sitting here preparing for re-entry. No more early morning alarms, no more taping my feet, at least not for a while, and I'm left to reflect on the entire experience. A transcon changes you, even half a one. I know that the people who bump fists with Andy Payne is different. I know that the person who bumped fist with Andy Payne is different from the one who stuck his walking stick into the ocean in Delaware 3 months ago. I like to think he is better. I know he has a different relationship with age and the passage of time. Instead of feeling disappointed in failing to achieve the goal I began with, there is satisfaction in feeling that I did what I was capable of doing, and maybe a little bit more. I have redrawn some lines, and already I'm wondering how I can come back and pick up where I have left off. If I cannot finish this journey in one piece, can it be done in several? Our journey is not over yet until we have no more goals, and I'm not yet ready to sit at home and wait to die. And I have one more comment before I wrap this up. I've wanted to say it 1,000,000 times, but there was always another story to tell. Every day when I logged on to make my report, my news feed passed by on the way, and I saw the headlines. I never had time to read any of the articles. Every day I felt more sorry for the people who do have time to read them. After a while I realized I had no need to read the stories, that I was better off without reading them. So much negativity in the media. I saw half of America, not all, but enough. How would I describe our country? Vibrant and alive. Do we not realize how much we have? How would I describe our people? Kind, generous, friendly. Do we not realize how good those around us are? Everywhere I went, people loved their homes. They had good relationships with their neighbors. They thought they lived in a great place. But the rest of the country was in a mess. Because that's what they read every day. What a mess it's in. Stop believing that crap. It is changing. It has always changed. This is what the world does and always will. Sometimes things don't turn out the way we thought they would, but they pretty much turn out the way they should. Life is like a journey run. You may have a plan on a map, but every day you have to adjust your plan to the reality on the ground. Here's the truth. No one seems to want to tell you. You live in the best place there is, in the best time there has ever been. Laz.
Thank you, Ned.
So great. Like, he loves America. I love this point. It's a bit like Ricky Gates's Transamericana. You know, he would run into a town and they were like, be careful, the next town's full of lunatics. And he goes to the next town and the people in that town were lovely. He goes to the next town and they were lovely people. They say, have you just been to that town? They're full of lunatics. Everyone's nice people. Sit and have a coffee with anybody. Cubans are nice people. Sure, there's a few crazy people in the world. Anyway, a beautiful story about America, people. Yeah, no, good old Laz.
Let's do this. Thanks, Ned. Appreciate you reading it out. Everyone else, thanks for listening. We're going to have another episode coming up next week. As usual, you will hear from us in episode 25. We are going towards 100 strong. So we'll see you soon and go online, talk to us, engage. We love you. Bye-bye.
And bye-bye. And Markus, enjoy Western States.